We're going to be mamshech where we stopped yesterday. We went through that, what it says that Hechrim ben Gershom Shalisa Isha Alishtoi, that the machlokes if a mokem mitzvah gazar or lo gazar, and how the Tzemach Tzedek explains that even if you want to say b'mokem mitzvah, it's only in certain scenarios, but it doesn't make sense to say that Piri V'Rivi will be one of the scenarios that Rabbeinu Gershom would be geyser, that you can't be noise isha alishtoi or megaresh bal korcha if there is a mitzvah of Piri V'Rivi, or even the mitzvah of Lasheves Yitzhara, which is the Chiddush of the Tzemach Tzedek. And also the idea of somebody that was separated for a long time, and the Hazir Hurim Roim, the Huri Aveda Kashim Aveda, also over there, we say that together with, it says, Asur Leishav B'Lo that he would have to, that also in such a scenario, combined with other reasons, that Rabbeinu Gershom would not be geyser in such a thing. Before we continue with the Tzemach Tzedek's, I just want to point out that this idea that Piri V'Rivia, like I said yesterday, is mentioned in a few poskim. Aside from the Tzemach Tzedek, it's also in the Tiferes Tzvi. It's also in the Shas Chuvas Marash, Minchas Shai. There's different places where that idea is also mentioned. Now, I want to continue with the Tzemach Tzedek's. The next one in your book, after Siman Zayin, jump to Siman Kuf Lamed Beis. That's the next one over here. Siman Kuf Lamed Beis, I'm going, the last, in Siman Zayin we discussed the person that was separated, she left for a very long time. Kuf Lamed Beis is a similar scenario. Yeah, over there, it's not she didn't leave him, but they are living together for 25 years. He did not have any kids from her. They don't get along anymore. And what does it mean that they don't have any kids? That he wasn't Mekayim Piri V'Rivia because the kids died young. And then after living for 25 years, he got separated. He's separated for 6 years now. And he's coming with, he wants to be released to be able to marry another woman because he's not allowed, she's not willing to take a get. So the main nekuda goes through this tshuva is the idea of meiredes. I mentioned that yesterday. Meiredes is a woman who prevents her husband from being with her, and there are certain halachas which are not discussed in Siman Aleph in Even Ha'ezer, discussed further in Even Ha'ezer. I'm not going to go through it now. I'm just going to focus more on the element that's relevant to Cherem Rabbeinu Gershom. There is a machlokes. If by taina of moisalai, if a woman says moisalai, that the husband, can't live with him anymore, do we force the husband to divorce the wife? Do we do kfiyah in such a scenario? The Agoyes Ashri writes that Rabbeinu Gershom paskins that you are koife a husband in a scenario of moisalai to be megaresh. That means if a wife comes and says, Moisalai on the husband, koifen. And why is that? The logic behind it is, you're going to say it's a get move, so you're forcing him to get divorced and get should be possible. The whole heter, when it comes to the ideas of get move, he explains the name of it brings the name of the Rosh and the Trumas Hadesh and everybody else. That kol mekadesh adaita derabanan mekadesh is mekadesh based adaita derabanan, and the Chachamim in such a scenario agreed that a get is warranted, and if not, afkinu rabanan. So now that we know that the Rabbeinu Gershom paskins that moisalai we do paskin kfiyah for a husband. It makes no sense to say that the wife should have more power than the husband. That means, if a wife could force her husband to give a get in a case of Moisalai, it would make sense that the same Rabbeinu Gershom would hold it. If a husband says, I can't anymore with this woman, min hadin, he would have the right to divorce her against her will. Yeah, because by a woman saying that the husband should moisalai and I want to get, and we say kfiyah, and we say over there that it's mikoyach kol mekadosh dat rabbanon mekadosh nafkinu rabbanon kedushin, which is a strong thing. For sure, over here, which is something which is not so tough, we should be able to say the same logic. That we don't say that the wife, that the husband who says mois should be able to divorce her without, there shouldn't be a chen Rabbeinu Gershom on divorcing her against her will. However, as Tzemach Tzedek points out, still, even though when a woman says mois alai, and you require for the husband to give a get, we don't need 100 rabbanim to paskin kfiyah. Over here, same thing we went through a bunch of times. The Bach says that we need 100, it already became a minhag that we need 100 rabbanim, and therefore 100 rabbanim is 100 rabbanim. In any scenario where you're going to cancel the takon of Rabbeinu Gershom, the gzeira or the chayrim, whichever opinion you want to take on the matter, what the koyach of it is, or the minhag, and therefore you need it. Next point that the Tzemach Tzedek explains over here in this tshuva. In general point, the Kol Boy, when he discusses the Chayim that Rabbeinu Gershom says, brings in the name of the Maram of Rothenburg, that you could only be matir the Chayim of Rabbeinu Gershom only when you have a tam mevurer, a clear and strong reason. Not stam you decided without a tam mevurer, a very clear reason, you can't come and be mevatel Chayim Rabbeinu Gershom. Tzemach Tzedek points out that says the Kol Boy is not talking about the Mokim Mitzvah. Now, the logic behind it is very simple. We went through it yesterday, we clarified, make it clear again. By a case of Mokim Mitzvah, the ones that hold, if you hold that by Mokim Mitzvah like goes out Rabbeinu Gershom, there's no need for a heter. The heter is extra. If there's no gzeira, means there's no gzeira to begin with. So any rules that apply to the takana, to the chayim Rabbeinu Gershom, that you say you need a tam mevurer, and you need to do it in front of Bezdin, and you need to have this, and you need to have that, and Oreo, when mechatchila there was no gzeira. So if you're going to pass that mechatchila there was no gzeira mokim mitzvah, and Tzemach Tzedek very clearly seems to take that approach, because that's how he explains it in all the tshuvas that we saw until now, that the mokim mitzvah is not the gzeira to begin with, and the Marim Mintz who holds that there is a gzeira, it's only very limited, and the Tzemach Tzedek says even if you want to hold like a Marim Mintz, he does not pass like the Marim Mintz. So you can't. So you don't need really a tam mevurer. But in this case, so he says, you don't need, even though you don't need a tam mevurer, essentially there is a tam mevurer here. What's the tam mevurer? When the person, if back to the original point, if by a wife it would be enough for her to say Moisalai, and you be clear for the husband, for sure, when the husband says Meisalai, that will be enough of a reason. So that's enough for tam mevurer. You don't need more tam mevurer than that. Livia. This is all good, according to Rabbeinu Gershom, who made a takana and also held that Koifin and Moisalai. Lemaise, we don't paskan Kfiyah and Moisalai. That's all. Lemaise, we don't paskan like Rabbeinu Gershom. It's written, it's a svara, it's a shitta, in halacha. Ma'aseh we don't pass. Tzemach Tzedek is very machmer on that. So all this is good up until the point that you're going to say you built your whole mountain on this idea that just like by Moisalai, by a husband, same thing applies to a wife. But now we don't have it because we just took out the yesod of the whole Gershom was not goizer. Fine. Same Rabbeinu Gershom was not, but we know that we're not passing like that. Tzemach Tzedek points out, first of all, that's not an issue. Why is it not an issue? Why don't we paskin by Moisalai, when a wife says Moisalai to do kfiyah? Because the poskim do not want to rely on this idea of afkino. We're very careful not to do afkas kedushin. So the whole yesod why moisalai we say afkeinu is based on the moisalai we say that koifin is that even if the get would be a problem, we still have afkeinu. We don't want to do afkeinu. But when it comes to chayim dabinu gershim, we don't have the chashash of afkeinu. You're not doing afkas kedushin. All you're doing is you are being matir a chayim that originally didn't have a problem. And if it's a case of makom mitzvah, it's bechlal gaza. So if you want to go on that logic, being that there's no issue of afkeinu, so the whole reason why people didn't want to, the poskim didn't want to pass like Rabbeinu Gershom, that koifen by moisel is only because of afkeinu. Over here you don't have afkeinu, so we're back to that the logic of Rabbeinu Gershom stands, that the wife can't, that the koifen by a man, by mois is enough reason to be koifen. If so, by a wife should be the other way around, that she shouldn't. If a husband says mois on the wife, it's not a problem. What's the raya for it? He brings the raya from one of the sources which discusses the Takana of Rabbeinu Gershom, which mentions Takana of Rabbeinu Gershom, is the Maram Rotenburg, which was not long afterwards. And the Maram Rotenburg has a tshuva where he's matter to Megara Sheisha Bal Korcho in a case when she wanted to continue living with him. He didn't want to continue living with her. And it seems like the reason was mitzad moisalai. That's what it seems like. And he was not willing to continue living with her, and therefore he was stuck. He was not interested. He couldn't continue living with her, and they were matir megarish bal korcho. If it was matir legarish bal korcho, the same logic would apply on both sides. Same back to the original point that we mentioned. The wife can't have more power than the husband when it comes to a get. Keep it equal, just like a husband. If the husband would be moisel, like according to Rabbeinu Gershom, we would do kfiyah. Same thing, the other way around. You should be enough to do it. As Machzedek again reiterates in this tshuva, but again the ma'aseh is the ma'aseh you can't do it without the heter, without the 100 rabbis. So now, if we have a scenario if we have a scenario like this scenario, that it's clear to us that he can't live with this woman anymore. And it's impossible we see 25 years they're married, 6 years they're separated. There is no chance to make any shalom bayis over here. And I'm just, by the way, I'm summarizing the whole Machzedek. I'm not going through every detail. And we're able to prove to enough. It's like for us, it's like a non-Saudi in such a scenario. It's clear to us, like witnesses, that he can't live with this woman anymore. And it's even better than the truth of the Maram Rotenburg. Over here, we're talking about 6 years. Maram Rotenburg doesn't mention how long it was. And as the Machzedek points out, you should just know that when it comes to Chayim Rabbeinu Gershom, when he made the takana, he made in it a loophole, so to speak. It was built-in, a built-in exit, that Chachmei Hadoyer are always able to determine when not to apply this chayim. It's not across the board a general chayim. The fact that the takana was made with the idea that the 100 rabbis could cancel it means that Rabbeinu Gershom put it. He didn't make it as an absolute no, like other things that we have absolute no's. It's not an absolute no. It's an absolute no based on circumstances, and the rabbis have the right to overturn it. It's not that the rabbis are trying now to overturn something. Sometimes, if a Rav paskins something, he has to think of a creative heter that goes, not exactly fits with what's written. Over here, the heter, the exit ramp, is built into the chayrim, into the takana. The takana is as follows, and takana has in it a clause that you're able to, if the chachamim in that time decide that it's because they're not sure that they have to cancel it, so you could go. Now the Tzemach Tzedek points out, he says, even though the Tzemach Tzedek is going to repeat time and time again to need 100 rabbis, and almost every tshuva is going to explain why be'emes we don't need it, and we only do it because it's a minhag. Over here also comes another angle for this idea of the 100 rabbis. There's a Mardechai which says that that the reason why Rabbeinu Gershom, it says Rabbeinu Gershom required 100 rabbis is not only for get bal karcha, but across the board required to enter to abolish the cherem. The Tzemach Tzedek is medayek from this Mardechai that in a case when is a chiyuv medina when alpi din he must give her a get, there's no need for meir rabbanim. That means the meir rabbanim, even though it's written clear that it's for that, it was a rasha specific, but in medina you don't need the meir rabbanim. Why don't you need the meir rabbanim? In a case of when it's your choice, you want to be megarish isha bal karcha, you're the meir rabbanim. But in the case of alpi din, you have to be megarish. You're not being megarish bal karcha, megarish because not you decided you want to divorce her and she decided she doesn't have interest in getting divorced. So you have to divorce her. If you have to divorce her, you don't have a choice. Alpi din, shas eshanim v'lo yolda, you have to divorce her. It's not a unique situation that you're going to say that Rabbeinu Gershom said you need 100 rabbis. In every generation, every time a woman doesn't have kids for 10 years, you have to find 100 rabbis. It doesn't make any sense. Rabbeinu Gershom, the same way he built this takana, he built certain, he says if it's going to be a scenario when a person wants to, for his own free will, decides he wants to divorce his wife, not because he has to, and he wants to do it against her will, then, as a temporary change to this, we have to find 100 rabbanim which will think and come to the conclusion that you have to abolish the cherem for this guy as a yotzim naklal. But you can't say that across the board on something Shulchan Aruch says is a chiyuv l'garish. On a scenario of shas eshanim, it's a chiyuv l'garish on him. And Tzemach Tzedek says, just like by over there, Tzemach Tzedek, and over there we have shittas which say that you don't need, when you read the Ramah, it seems like you don't need the meir rabbanim over there. And there are other shittas which also say that, we have the Bach that says we always do meir rabbanim, right? But alpi straight halacha, you would not need it. So Tzemach Tzedek adds to it, he says the same way that would apply in such a scenario, that is the shas eshanim, the same logic could also apply to Me'isalai. Same logic would apply to Me'isalai, that if it's something which is, if you put Me'isalai in the category like Medina, she's obligated to divorce her, then you wouldn't need 100 rabbis. But we know it's not so. Me'isalai is something that he decided on his own free will, he can't live with her anymore. So you can't put it in the category of Shas Hashem v'lo Yoldo that you don't need 100 rabbanim. But Mela, according to that logic, we would need. It's not only mitzad minig, but over here you would need a meir rabbanim based on this logic. You would need it, mandatory. You would not be able to just say you don't need it. Now, when you go to this is all. The Tzemach Tzedek continues in the whole logic whether you could rely on Me'isalai or you can't rely on bichlal on this whole svara of Me'isalai. But at the end comes the Tzemach Tzedek and says, "B'poyel, it's very hard to say that the reason." That just based on Moiselai should be enough of a reason to be mevatel Chen Gershom. And he's going to say, so we have to find the other reasons in this case which would apply to this to say that to be matter. And the reasons that are brought over there, that he says, first of all, he didn't have kids. And there is no chance, after 25 years of marriage and 6 years of separation and 31 years, there's no more chance he's going to be kind of pretty v'rivi with this woman. That's already done. So he has to be kind of pretty v'rivi in another way. And it's more than 10 years. If it's more than 10 years, anyways, we explained before, that she's chayav l'garasher, so it will be the same thing. And the bichlal mitam mitzvah, even if you move the shas as to shonim v'layolda, the fact that we go back to the piri v'rivi as a mitzvah, and Rabbeinu Gershom was not goyzer bichlal, because bichlal b'mokim mitzvah. And you also have the chashash hirhur that was mentioned in the Tzemach Tzedek over here and in other places also. Now, so I just want to point out the fact that Tzemach Tzedek adds the hirhur over here, as he says, why it says so over here from this tshuva he takes hirurei avera and makes it even stronger than piri v'rivya, which is even bigger than what we saw until now. Until now we were looking at piri v'rivya is a mitzvah deraisa. L'sheves yitzora, the Tzemach Tzedek moved it into that category, and now. Also, Lisha is B'la Yisha, Tzemach Tzedek says, Adif from Piri V'rivya. It's even more stronger than Piri V'rivya. And Tzemach Tzedek says that, logically speaking, it's stronger than Piri V'rivya. Elamai. Over here, benoisef to that, the fact is that she did the pshia by going in dangerous places. So we could be matir. It seems like the Tzemach Tzedek, there's no maskon. It seems like the Tzemach Tzedek is matir for him to have to not have to wait and to be able to marry another woman. Now there's two other truths. I'm not going to go into them now. Shinayin Vav, Shinayin Zayin. But I want to jump into another one because
Why is she the ship with the That's the fact that she left her house for a year. That's the biggest ship. She either left her house or she was killed.
If she was killed. If she left her house, she did. She was peshaz by leaving, and if she's alive, she's a meiredes. So there's anyways yoitzi. You could divorce her, and if she's not, and if she's dead, then he's definitely gonna marry another woman. Doesn't have to wait. He's allowed to marry somebody else. Or she was kidnapped. That's a problem. Yeah.
No, that's what we're saying. It's she of her to go.
Yeah. I'm not going to go into Shinayin Vav Shinayin Zayin. I'm going to go to the next one, which is Sofik Lemi. It's true as which are printed in the Tzemach Tzedek. It's not exactly clear if they are from the Tzemach Tzedek, but they're printed over there. They have some connection to this. Somehow they were in the same Kisveyat, so if not from the Tzemach Tzedek, could be from the Tamidim of the Tzemach Tzedek. סימן Aleph is talking about also a disappearance. A woman went to the base of Tvila and went to mikveh, the other side of the river. She crossed the river, went to the bridge, crossed the river, went to mikveh, didn't come back. And since then we don't know what happened. Could be she drowned in the river, and they got along, so we don't have such a svara to say that maybe she ran away from him. And the shaila is, does he have a heter to maybe put a get in Bezdin and then marry a second woman, or he has a heter to marry a second woman bichlal? And over here, the Tzemach Tzedek basically says as follows. He says, if it will be less than 12 months, you can't be matir. Just like by Meredes. Worse than compared to Meredes. Meredes is 12 months. If it's less than 12 months, it's not a Meredes, you can't be matir. More than 12 months, you could be matir over here also to marry another woman. Especially since we don't know what happened to it. Either if she got kidnapped, we're not going to tell him. He doesn't even know. The kidnappers never contacted him, so he has no idea if he could release her or not. He's not going to sit there and then be alone for a long time. Or maybe she bichlal died. And based on that, he says it's enough of a reason to be matir him to marry another woman. But the question is, does he have to be mashlish ksuba? Because one of the things that were discussed, and when it comes to hetamei rabbanim, and also in the previous tshuva, Tzemach says she has to be mashlish ksuba, and Siman Kuf Lamed Beis, when 6 years separated, he has to put the ksuba in escrow by Bezdin when she picks up the get. Over here, the shaila is, does he have to put in escrow the money of the ksuba? Now Tzemach says, the money of the ksuba is a tviyah from the woman, I'm paraphrasing what Tzemach says, is a tviyah from the woman to the man. If the woman is not here to claim it, because maybe she died, now it becomes a safek. Misafek, we're not mitzi moment. To tell the guy, go put money in escrow in the bezin for ksuba, outside a safek, maybe she's going to come back. Not we know that she's alive. We don't know anything. Maybe she died. That's not enough of a reason. And he ends with tzarichim, but he says it gives a svara why in such a scenario when she disappeared, and there is a svara to believe either she got kidnapped or she died, or something like that, and it could be that she died. So it becomes the chiyuv of ksuba becomes a safek. If chiyuv of ksuba becomes a safek, he's not obligated to deposit that amount of money. That is essentially the Tzemach Tzedek. I pointed out to you this Kufay Vav Kufay Zan. I don't want to go through now, and there's also a Siman Yud Gimel that discusses about a case when a woman was seriously drunk, and even after the Bezdin already told her, and she took a shvuah that she's not going to drink any more alcohol, she still continued drinking, and the Rabbanan wanted to give him a heter to marry another woman, and Tzemach Tzedek was not really interested in being mitzaref to the heter. He says the best would be that to convince her to take a get in such a scenario, and rather than forcing her to take a get bar karcha. And but that's it. Tzemach Tzedek doesn't seem like he's not happy to join along with such a heter. That is essentially all the Tzemach Tzedek I wanted to discuss. Now I want to point something else out. We discussed two short points. We discussed in the Shulchan Aruch and in the Tur the idea of zikui, that if a woman is a meshumedes, mezakin lo get. Now it's mentioned in passing in this siman. It's mentioned in passing in a different siman also in Shulchan Aruch later on in Even Ha'ezer. When the meshumedes in essence means that we know for a fact that she's living with Goyim and she's living be'isr. How is this get zikui done? You should understand how it's done. He says the husband appoints a shliach, to bring the get to the wife. But he says, first of all, the shliach who's getting the get is not getting the get as a shliach. He's getting the get as a zoiche for the woman. That means he's going to receive the get from the husband. The husband tells him, "Schei beget zeh leishti plenis plenis ubekabalosa tehei megureshes mimeni me'achshav." And after that is done, then the shliach gives his mimana, and after that is done, the Rav says, "Now your wife is free." And then they do it again. I think I mentioned it yesterday, the details, and then they do it again and give it to her in her hands. And there's a discussion of what happens to the kids in such a scenario. There was an interesting case. Why did he give it again? Because l'rafcha de milsa, you want that she go through, that she should receive it in her hands. Maybe the zikui wasn't perfect. Maybe it's not really a schus for her. So zachan adam shlo b'fanav, right?
He doesn't care why.
We don't know. We have a story. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe she did tshuva. I don't know. She did tshuva. V'haraya should come pick up the get.
She's willing to accept the get in the first place. Why
We don't know. We didn't reach her. She's not willing to accept the get now for whatever reason. We don't know. We don't do zikui when a woman's not willing to accept the get. Do zikui when a woman is not available to accept the get because she's a meshumedes. In such a scenario, we have to do zikui. And then it's given to the shliach. Now, there was an interesting case which happened in San Francisco, a little bit less than 100 years ago. The date of the tshuva is Chav Teves Tov Reish Tzadik Aleph to the Rav of San Francisco. This is a tshuva from Chief Rabbi of Israel, Harav Kook, Ezras Koyen Siman Dalad. The story was a woman not interested in receiving a get. She doesn't keep Torah mitzvahs. There's a chashad that she's with other men, but there's no edim. If there is or there's not, could the Rav in town be mezake get to the wife, and then allow the husband to marry another woman without the 100 rabbis? So in this tshuva, he starts by saying zikui get can't work in such a scenario. Zikui get will only work by emumeres. Because it says in Shulchan Aruch. Edim, you don't have to prove that anything. You don't have edim on now, and you don't have edim on the past. And even if you would have edim on the past, maybe she made a mistake. There wasn't the standard that she became a mummer, that she completely changed and she was mezaneh with goyim and everything else. She's not muchzik in such a thing. Shemo lehaba leitizne. Could be calling from now on leitizne. So why is it a schus for her to get a get? And the fact that she's not frum and she doesn't keep Shabbos, doesn't keep kashrus, doesn't keep ta'asa mishpacha, that's not enough of a reason for you to think of her as such a bad woman that because she doesn't keep Shabbos, kashrus, and niddah, she's also going to be mezaneh. That's not enough. It's not enough of a reason. These are, he says, because in those countries, it's it's common that people are not keeping those three things. It doesn't mean that they're keeping that they're going to be mezaneh. And he says, you want to be medayik from the Trumas Hadeshen regarding zikui. The whole reason why he says that zikui by mumeres is only because we know that she's a meshumedes bein ha-nochrim, and she's definitely going to be mezaneh with nochrim. So therefore, over there, we're mezaket her because for sure it's a schus for her. But over here, you don't have such a thing. So now he says, okay, fine. So we don't have enough of a reason to just do zikui. But maybe we should still do zikui just in case. Maybe not enough to release him, but at least do a zikui in case she is not enough to release the husband yet. But maybe you should just do a zikui to release her in case she's doing something wrong, that she shouldn't be living by Isur. So that is maskim together with hetamei rabbanim. There should be 100 rabbis, and the get should be sitting for her, and he has to put the ksuba down, and then the bezdin could call her and say, "Listen, he has tainus to you. Come to bezdin whenever you're ready to do it," and that together with the zikui is enough to be matter for him to do it. And then he puts a very interesting thing I didn't see in any other sefer. What's the reason why we say what's the chayim that been gershim? You can't be megarash isha bal kolcha, right? You can't go against a woman. If a woman is not interested to accept a get, you can't force her to accept a get. Over here, he says, she already received the get, or she already received a civil divorce. In this case, she received a civil divorce. V'yesh lo yimar, the kshenizgasha berkois, Shal kolponim gilsa daita shechafetza begerushin. By her getting divorced in the civil system, she shows that she's interested in being divorced from this guy. Whether it was done that she initiated it, so now, Kevon she avaryanis, b'kpayel she doesn't keep Torah mitzvahs. V'hamichshel muchan la leinasei berkois b'loi eimas malchus, and now she's free to remarry without fear of the government because bigamy is prohibited. Now she's free to remarry. In such a scenario, in such a thing, Rabbeinu Gershom would not be geyser. She already agreed. In her mind, it's no longer Bal Korcho. An interesting twist on this thing. She shows that for her, it's no longer Bal Korcho. The get is given to her. No, you're not Megash Bal Korcho. Megash Bal Korcho means she doesn't want to get divorced. Over here, she wants to get divorced. She doesn't only want to get divorced, she actually did get divorced. She's not a pitayra. She did an action to show that she wants to be separated from this guy. So he says, okay, Lamaise, he says, it seems like the reason why you're looking for a heter is because it's impossible for you to find 100 rabbis in San Francisco. So I'm telling you, you make a Gvia Seidus, send her here to Eretz Yisrael. Baruch Hashem po yesh no rabbonim rabim, ken yirbu mimdinas shaynes. Here in Eretz Yisrael, we have a lot of rabbis, also from other countries, and we'll take care of the 100 rabbis for you. So it shouldn't be a problem. Well, then he concludes. He says, "You do." Obviously, he's masking to the idea of zikui, but not enough to release the husband without anything. I found it as a very interesting. There's a lot of tshuvas on every sefer, and every Ezra has tshuvas on this. And it's going to go to the discussions about pirivirivy. The same 6-7 things are going to come across. Deir se'arois, if she's machshilosei beisurim, if she causes him to do averis, if she herself does averis, if she's moitzi shemra on him. All reasons that sometimes could be used for lafkia chenem ben gershon. But they're all topics that you'll see in all the places, and all repeat themselves in all the places. This I found to be a unique thing, and something that probably you're not going to come across, because the Chuvas Ezra's Koyen of Rav Kook is not on Eitzer HaChochma, it's only on Project Ashut, because most of the Rav Kook, I don't know why it's not on Eitzer, I didn't see it on Eitzer HaChochma, could be it's on the newer ones, I didn't see it in the older ones. So maybe it's if you get the right package of Rav Kook, whatever, I didn't have it at home, I found it. I have the actual book. It's an interesting thing you should just know. It's open up your mind, broader horizons, not only the Tzemach Tzedek. That's what we paskin like. It's always interesting to know an interesting twist on something which nobody else, I did not see anybody else discuss it. Today, it is discussed. Because today, people search, and when today they do Hetemei Rabbanim, just punch in Eitzer HaChochma, turn some other record, and you find the truth from somebody else, and you'll be able to build on it. What I'm saying is, from the poskim of more than 50 years ago, I didn't see it anywhere. From 50 years up to 500 years ago, I didn't see it anywhere else. This idea that by her getting divorced civilly, it shows that it's no longer Bal Korcho. With that, we'll conclude this topic. And there will be more Shurim on Even HaEzer, not this week. There will be Shiurim Chayra next week. It's going to be a shir on Eruvin, probably either Wednesday morning or Thursday morning.